Hello again, and welcome to Catamount Community Connection, our 1-hour public affairs show that we air each week on 5 stations. And also, it's on PEG TV. If you ever want to find out who was on when, you just Google pegtv.org and put in Catamount Community Connection. You can pick whatever show you want to listen at your convenience. And our show is brought to you, of course, by the Rutland County Agricultural Society, which is going to bring you the 180th Vermont State Fair. Let's see, it'll be a week from this coming Tuesday. So we're recording this show on the 5th. It'll air on the 9th of August. And the fair is coming up the 18th through the 22nd. So it is really, really close, folks. And happy to be able to talk about that in some detail. We've had Robert Congdon on a couple of times from the Fair Association, and we're looking forward to the 180th Vermont State Fair here in Rutland coming up the 18th through the 22nd. Today on our show, we're going to spend 55 minutes or so talking with His Honor, the Mayor of the City of Rutland, Tom Donahue, and we kind of like to check in with him every month, 5-6 weeks, something like that, find out what's new in the area, and welcome in. I know by, again, the time this airs, the past week, we'll have had the National Night Out event, which is back or was back this year at the Vermont State Fairgrounds, speaking of the fairgrounds. And from what I understand, unfortunately, I couldn't attend. I was up in St. Johnsbury at another event, but it was pretty well attended, and maybe they'll look to move that there again at some point.
Yeah, so happy to be on with you again to talk about all the great things happening in the city of Rutland and the region too, Brian, and to your listeners. This is a great way to communicate, and I do appreciate that it does go on YouTube and people can click on it and listen to it as well. So if they happen to miss it on the radio, which I like to catch, it's great that you can listen later because I want to be, as I said before, and I'll be a
transparent.
I want to be communicator in chief.
There you go.
Yeah, because I think it's so important that we can communicate with everyone about what's going on, what our challenges are, what our opportunities are. And also just to, clarify some things so that people don't have to speculate if they know the answer. Why not? So I'm excited about, continuing this, and this program of yours, which is fantastic, is much appreciated by me and I think your listeners, so that we can continue to communicate the important things going on in this greater Rutland region and the city proper, as you will, as I'm the mayor. And so let me reflect back just quickly to confirm what you said about National Night Out. This is national, and they're going on across the country and across Vermont in various places. And Rutland has one of the best, I think. But it's a good community event where just everybody comes together with all the community organizations. There was so many there last night. And I know this is airing a little bit after the fact, but I just want to say, in reflecting back, that yes, the weather gods did help, no doubt about that. Yeah. But the fairgrounds provided a tremendous venue. We're doing the combined sewer project, the massive project at Meadow Street right now that was, by the way, completely grant funded through the American Rescue Plan Act funding opportunity. It was one of the only ones we received in the state, over $7 million. So I just want people to know where that money is coming from for that huge Meadow Street project to offset that stormwater situation that we've experienced for historically in Rutland. That's going to really make a big difference in being able to basically be a reservoir for that stormwater in any capacity, because there's so many different sections of it that it can be handling small storms as well as big storms going forward in the future for Rutland. So it's a very, very big, important project for Rutland. It is being a very large grant that was awarded to the city, very unusual, frankly. But that did disrupt where we normally would hold National Night Out. And so they returned to their roots at the Vermont State Fairgrounds, because that's where it started. And I always have my fingers crossed, hoping that everybody will get the message that it's moved. It's at a different location, and it message was clearly received. It was fantastic. A lot of people turned out. It was so much fun, and really family. A lot of moms and dads and kids, but a great community gathering because every agency was there, and of course our Rutland City Police Force, Fire Department, and so forth. Public safety is there, and that's what National Night Out is really about: is bringing the police department together with the community and showing that support going back and forth both ways. So a great success. Very excited to have seen that myself. I was there for most of it, and I stayed till they started tearing the tents down, and then I got out of the way. But anyway, thanks for bringing that up because that's a really important project in that we're working so closely with our police department. And I want to talk about that on your program today. But I did want to just mention one other thing because when this airs, it'll be the day of the big community concert that's happening in Main Street Park. So the last Rutland City Band concert of the season is happening on Sunday, August 9th. And that night, all the community bands, basically, this is something new they've never done before. They put out an invitation to community bands to participate in that regular Rutland City Band concert night in Main Street Park at 7 p.m. And they've had 75 takers. There'll be 75 musicians that night, which is really, really outstanding. These are the fun, upbeat things, really opportunities that for the community, by the way, free, the community to really enjoy. And some of the talent in these musicians statewide and right here in Rutland that'll be going on in Main Street Park. And again, the price is right at free. But we're excited to be able to have these kind of things coming to Rutland. Your community can be known for a lot of things, and it can be negative and it can be positive. And I love to, I'm not ignoring the negatives. We're talking about them, we're wearing them on our sleeves, and we're getting them fixed. But at the same time, we really want to address the positive. Make sure that we're talking about these and not getting it overlooked because of our challenges. And in that Rutland City Band playing for the summer and this big statewide community concert Sunday night is one of those positive things that I'm excited about and appreciate for Rutland. This is this is kind of who we are. Yeah. And that gazebo represents history in Rutland as well. So I'm excited about that. I did want to talk today a little bit, Brian, about how we are working with our police force,
sure,
if you will, because as you know, that is one of the things we want to wear on our sleeve. I have campaigned on this as an alderman and then mayor, as far as supporting the police department in their efforts to curb crime, reduce crime in Rutland City. And the chief, Matt Prouty, is doing a great job pulling together a team of people and then motivating his team and having specific direction. In other words, very focused effort. And I'm utilizing modern technology too, which we've talked about on your program with Patrol Finder and things like that. But I also just wanted to recognize, the volume. So one of the things that we've been trying to do is bring the temperature down on the crime, and that's my terminology, not theirs. But, I try to kind of compare us to what's going on in Burlington right now, and you see them on the news a lot, unfortunately for them, with some pretty serious things like a lot of shootings and those kind of aggressive, really, really concerning crime. And what we're trying to do here, as I see it anyway, is first of all, bring the temperature down on that crime, where we aren't seeing the shootings and crime at that level, the armed robberies and those kinds of things. And right now, fingers crossed, we're not seeing those things. Now, it is summertime. Summertime ramps up. You see more of that kind of thing in the summertime. So the fact that we're not seeing that right now in the summertime is a good sign that the police efforts are working and we're bringing the temperature down on crime. I didn't mean to interrupt. No, please.
We did have Chief Prouty on a couple of weeks ago and talked a lot about the fact that seasonally things are different. Not as many people out and about in the colder weather, but he also seems very, very comfortable and secure in what he's trying to do with the local city police department. And I think I agree with you. He's doing a great job and we, we'll see cruisers. I go out of my way to wave every time I see a police officer drive by, and they wave back. It's kind of neat. Maybe it wasn't always that way, but I like what he's doing with the department a lot.
Agreed. And, one of those things that I am getting feedback on is that people are seeing them more often. And one of the reasons for that is, of course, them being smart enough to come up with utilizing the Pathfinder technology where the GPS kind of tracks the cruisers where they are, and they're able to make sure that they get to every street in the city. And they can flag the high priority areas and spend more time in those areas so that they're deterring crime. Technologies like that and utilizing just smart policing is making a difference, because I'm really hearing it from the public. They're seeing the officers. They're not just randomly driving around aimlessly. Right. Not that they ever did it quite that way, but this is very focused. It's very directed patrols.
We talked a lot too about the bike patrol in the downtown area, especially, and how good that's working out.
It really is. And they were all there, and of course, at National Night Out, too, and the whole bike patrol was there. The chief actually was riding one of them. I love that part because those bicycles can go places that the cruisers can't. The cruisers are very important, but the bikes are important in that they can go down an alleyway, they can go under a bridge, they can go across lots and places that the cruisers normally wouldn't. So that's disrupting more places that people might decide that it was safe to conduct some nefarious activity. Yeah. Exactly. And so, having said that about the bringing the temperature down, what we haven't achieved then is, of course, just volume. Now, volume is up, and sometimes that's a good thing in that we do want people to see something, say something, as they say. That's okay. So if people are calling this, we want that because it's better to be proactive. But it has resulted in a lot of calls. This year to date already, it's over 10,500 calls. So we're ahead of last year in the volume. So temperature down, but volume up. And the other thing that's bothering me, and we're having a lot of conversations about this, I'll be attending the RUTSTAT meeting on Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock at the police department, where we review with the police department all the statistics for the 2-week snapshot. Yep. And it really is another one of their smart policing efforts to look at these statistics and know where, when, why, who, et cetera. It's impressive. Love the data and the understanding of it, because you can really understand it when you see it. Having said that, with that volume, a lot of it that bothers me is retail theft. There's just a lot of retail theft, and that's a problem. And so once you start to bring the temperature down, now you got to drill down a little bit and say, okay, what are the real issues here now? And that's one of them. And then the other is car break-ins. And so, one message I'll have today, which is common sense most of the time. Most people know, lock your car, because the first thing they're trying to do is go around and pull door handles. They're looking for the low-hanging fruit. So they're looking to find the cars that are open first and just get in, and rummage around. But if it's locked, then they can't. And they're going to keep looking until they find one that's open. Having said that, the second piece is making sure you don't put, items of any value in plain sight in your car, because it gives them the reason to want to then break the window and reach in and grab whatever's left on the seat. So, really put things out of sight in your vehicle or in the trunk, because that is an incentive for them to break in. Now, that's not acceptable. And you have read probably recently, and you'll hear about more, the great efforts that our team at City Hall is conducting in shutting down known drug houses. Those are not acceptable in this community. So taking my conversation in a whole different direction here for a minute, I want to let you know that that's just not being tolerated here by this mayor or by this police department. But I want to credit also our building and zoning department. I just met with them this morning. I started to have weekly meetings with the whole team there. There's 4 people in that department. They're working very hard. It's a tough job, building and zoning and what they call code enforcement. Because I'm afraid our bar has been set too low in Rutland previously, and it's created a lot of issues in the city, buildings issues, and occupancy issues, and issues of conditions. in and out of the house, and also some commercial properties, and those has to be changed. We have to set our bar higher. Expectations. I'm raising the expectations, and saying that's not acceptable here. We don't allow it, and we're going to do something about it. And an example of that is the one you happen to probably read about was 26 Hopkins Street. Right. That was done in collaboration with the owner of the property who just needed help. Come in and help me. I've got a problem here on this property. And we have done several with the property owners because sometimes oftentimes, now that person happened to live there, but oftentimes they don't live there. It's an absentee owner of either the rental property, housing typically, or sometimes a commercial property. Example of that on the corner of Summer and State Street, which was the hideaway for those who go hearkening way back.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, so that one's shut down, but became was a vacant commercial building, not a residential, and then became a place that was frequented by drug users and drug dealers. And what happens is it's just, I hate to say it, but it's just like you see on television when they show these, you see a TV show or a movie and they'll have a drug den kind of thing, and people will walk in and it's all a mess. Mm-hmm. And there's stuff strewn and there's waste and there's needles and everything. That's sadly what some of the insides of these places actually look like. And that's just unacceptable to me and to this team at City Hall. So what's happening in a good way is that they team up. So the building department teams up with the police department, and or vice versa, by the way. Sometimes it's the police department calling in the building department because they have the ability to shut down a place for health reasons, really. It's health and safety. And at the same time, it could sometimes involve the fire department occasionally. It sometimes could involve the Department of Public Works if there's a real health hazard that has to be cleaned up for the public around the area. 26 Hopkins, we did clean up some of it outside because it was a danger to the neighbors, but we did not clean out the inside. There was some conversation about that. We're not doing people's cleanouts. What we did literally had to board it up. But you have to clear out everybody who's residing there, living there, so to speak. And I just put air quotes around that because they have no right to be there. They're exceeding occupancy levels and everything else. They're just finding these places and taking them over. Mm-hmm. And then everyone goes in and that becomes the place. That's what we're shutting down. And so 2 houses up from Uncle Sam's on State Street, the corner of State and Summer, Summer Street last week, Hopkins Street the week before, houses on both of those streets. We're going to continue to do this until they understand that this is not allowed here. It's not acceptable. Our bar is set higher now, and we're not going to allow this kind of nefarious activity to take place within our city limits. Outside of the city limits, there's nothing I can do about that, but you know what? I can do a lot about within the city limits. Mm-hmm. And that's why we have this great police force doing what they're doing. That's why we have this great Department of Building and Zoning doing what they're doing, our fire, our DPW, all teaming up to address these places. I don't know when it became okay here, but it's not okay. And so that's a big deal right now, I feel, because we want to make it very difficult for drug dealers. Now, let me just segue into what I was talking about before, Brian, and that is about the retail theft, the car break-ins. I'm a big advocate for the homeless. I ran Brock Community Action for a decade. I don't want to see the homeless, and I want to help them in every way we can, and we do. But what I don't have any tolerance for is lawbreakers. And there's people just breaking the laws out there right now, and that's where my support stops. They've got to live like the rest of us and follow the laws. So what happens is with this whole drug problem, it bleeds over into retail theft, car theft, and so forth, and that's just not acceptable. I was down at Comfort Inn meeting with the management down there a couple of weeks ago because they had some problems out in their back parking lot. Because there's a homeless encampment nearby, and then they would just kind of come over to the parking lot. And then, these are guests for the hotel. That's very, very bad for business. And it's bad for Rutland's reputation. Mm-hmm. Those things have got to stop. But a lot of it is because of the drug trade. So it's, they go hand in hand, unfortunately. And it's something that we're seeing prominently in Rutland right now. So yes, good news. We brought the temperature down. You're not seeing the kind of news you're seeing coming out of Burlington. I want to get Rutland fixed. Our police department want to get Rutland fixed. Our building department wants to get Rutland fixed before we even start to look like Burlington. Yeah. And it's easy to say, well, these things happen everywhere. Sure, they do. But this is still doesn't make it acceptable. It's got to be unacceptable here. It will make Rutland a safer place. We already are a safer place. It will be a safe place to live. We want people to move here. We do. And we want that workforce, too, when people move here. And we want people to invest here and start their businesses here. We'll need the people moving here for their workforce. And we want Rutland to be a thriving community with business and employment and great schools and great recreation programs, which we have. But that public safety piece is such a critical element of it. It's part and parcel to all of those investments in families locating here, working here, going to school here. All those things are, and just shopping here, just feeling safe coming into Rutland to go shopping.
We're talking to the mayor of the city of Rutland, Tom Donahue. We're going to take our first break here on Catamount Community Connection. When we come back, I know Tom and I were both at a service for recently departed Nancy Gordon. I do want to at least mention her when we come back as sort of our own little tribute here. And I also want to make sure people realize, because we're in a midterm situation in terms of the voting pattern, it's not traditionally a very well voted upon situation. But this coming Tuesday, the 11th, is primary day here in Vermont. A lot of people have already probably requested absentee ballots and may have already voted, but I want to at least urge people to make sure that you get out and exercise your right and, frankly, your responsibility to vote on Tuesday coming up. All right, we'll take our first break. We'll be back here with Tom Donahue on Catamount Community Connection in just a minute. We're back on Catamount Community Connection, our weekly 1-hour public affairs show that we do each week to keep people informed about what's going on in Rutland County. Again, brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society. And the Vermont State Fair, folks, is coming up. It'll be a full week from this coming Tuesday. So this Tuesday's primary day, the 11th, and then the following week on the 18th, this year's 180th Vermont State Fair kicks off. It runs through the 22nd at the Vermont State Fairgrounds. Please go down and support the fair. Please vote on Tuesday, or maybe you already have. The mayor's just informed me. I didn't realize you can walk into City Hall at any time. Well, not any time. I mean, you can't do it in May. Yeah, it has to be within an election cycle and vote. I didn't realize that that was possible. I knew about the absentee stuff, but I didn't realize you could walk in and vote. Geez, I hope in the end we're not, sort of taking more away from actual voting day. I really think that's important, that people, whether they take off from work to, for an hour or so go vote, or whether it just, to me, we've gotten to the point where I think we've made it way too easy for folks to vote. I'm a big believer in actually going to the poll and casting your vote. Absentee ballots are fine, and I especially appreciate the military being able to do that, or if you're going to be out of town or you're sick or something. But I'm resistant to making it just sort of like there'll be people, I'm sure, in this coming legislature that want to be able to vote online, and I'm absolutely uncomfortable with that. I don't think that's a good idea. Anyway, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent there.
No, but I will say, Brian, the City Hall polling place, which is the clerk's office, I've done it once a few years back, and it was as if you were voting on voting day. You walk in, they take you out back you have privacy. They give you your ballot. You vote just like you normally would, and then put it in an envelope sealed. So it's very convenient. But the idea of that is so that those who can't get there on Tuesday, or you just are concerned that you might not get there and you want to make sure you vote, it gives you that option. So I love it from that perspective. And it is very formal because it is the clerk's office, the city clerk's office, who is in charge of the elections.
Yep. I know you and I both attended the services recently, about a week ago now, for Nancy Gordon, with whom I worked for many years. That was at the Trinity Episcopal Church. Very well attended, I thought. It was a lengthy service, but I thought it was very well done. Lots of music, lots of memories shared, and going to miss her for sure. I was absolutely shocked when I heard just about a week ago that she had passed. I knew she had some medical issues and had battled those for years, but it was still one of those things. And it was odd, up in Montpelier at the Legion up there, they pipe in this other radio station. I can't remember the call letters. I want to say it's CVT, I think. And so we would listen to Nancy Gordon from Montpelier.
Oh,
and
right.
It was really, it was amazing. So,
yeah. Well, and I wanted to say, too, I really appreciated that service Reverend Sarah Janolfi had put on, at Trinity, and it was very, if you're religious, and I am, it was a wonderful, wonderful service. Nancy was very religious. It's exactly the service that she would want and appreciate. So I did as well. Yeah. I was actually glad that it was sort of less of a memorial type and more of a religious service, because that's who Nancy was. She was very religious. And that's why I, take some solace in knowing that she's with God right now and feeling great because her reward is in heaven, without a doubt. So our loss is heaven's gain, but it is a loss for Rutland. Nancy was... Yeah. As you know, and your listeners know, I mean, Nancy was emblematic of all that is good about Rutland. Right. And that's what I love about, her involvement over the years, whether it was, even things that people don't know, maybe Vermont 211, which is a tremendous service to help people. The United Way. Yep. I have this one story that nobody knows where I happened to be at my desk at Brock Community Action. And Nancy, once in a while, when she needed some help, she'd just put out a little plea on Facebook, And so that day she had put one out, and this is quite a few years back now, when she was with United Way, and she started there in 2018. And she put something out because the Red Cross was closing their offices on Strongs Avenue. And when they were just outside the House Center, as you go in there, that brick building, they had a lot of nice furniture. And she was at the office for United Way when they had moved into VAC for a time. And she saw the opportunity to snag some nice furniture as Red Cross was donating it to anybody who wanted some, come get it kind of thing. So she was looking for some help with, exactly. And I happened to see it. I was at my desk, and I said, gosh, I got a minute. I'm going to head down there and give her a hand. So I showed up. I can't remember whether it was anybody else there. It was just the two of us. And I was trying to remember whether Red Cross had 2 or 3 floors in that building. I'd have to ask David Giancola. But it was the top floor anyway. We needed to get it down to the bottom floor. So I packed it into this tiny little elevator that's in that building. And really packed it. But then you had to press the button. So I had to squeeze in with the furniture. So it was just me squeezed into this. Luckily, I'm not claustrophobic, because anybody who would never have done what I did. And I thought it was going to be fine, all the furniture in there, me. Press the button, head down, and I'm not sure it was 1 or 2 floors. Doesn't it stop in between floors?
Oh, boy.
And I was, oh, my gosh. I just couldn't believe it. It was like your worst nightmare, especially if you have claustrophobia, which thank God I don't. And there I was. And I couldn't I tried to holler up to Nancy, but she couldn't hear me from there. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to fix. What am I going to do? So I said a little prayer. And after a while, after being, trying to sit there and think, okay, what do you do? Yeah. What do you do now, Tom?
Open the ceiling and climb off.
I don't even. They couldn't even hardly move because I went and overpacked it with furniture. It was a very small little elevator, and lo and behold, when I pressed the button, and it was the prayer or Nancy, or because it was Nancy, I think I got a special grace. It started, and it went to the ground floor and opened up, and I was like, whew, wow, okay, that was a pickle. Yeah. And I'll never forget that, though, because it was just kind of after you were off the elevator and unloaded all the furniture and helped her get it to VAC. Then it was a funny story. Sure. At the moment, it was, short of panic.
She's one of those rare people that were a competitor of mine for a while. When I first came to Rutland in 1972, there were only 2 radio stations. There was WHWB and WSYB. There were no FM stations back then.
Right.
The internet hadn't arrived yet. We did everything by playing 45 RPM records and taping stuff. And anyway, she was at the other station. We would refer to each other as the other station. and was a competitor. But I always was really jealous. She had a wonderful voice. And whether she was doing a show with music or the news, you could tell immediately that it was Nancy Gordon. And then eventually she moved to our station, and we worked together for a while. Terry J went up to Burlington for a while, and so things kind of went haywire there. But she and Ed Kelly also did the morning show for a while. And by that time, of course, there were FM stations in town. And it was just one of those things. I'll always remember her voice and her kindness. She was just a very special person. And I know we're all going to miss her. But I was shocked when I heard just about a week ago today. And I think it happened overnight in her sleep. And
that's right. And I was equally shocked and just dismayed by the whole thing. It's one of those kick in the pants that you just wish you weren't hearing. Yeah. It's like, no, this can't be. Yeah. By the way, I did want to say, it was nice. Ed Kelly, her services on Sunday at Trinity Church was one of the readers, and I thought that was very appropriate, and I was glad to see him there doing that part of the service. I'm sure Nancy will and does appreciate it. And by the same token, I did want to also reflect back and just say that, it's people like her that make Rutland so special. And she was compassionate. So as, somebody at Brock Community Action, I can tell you firsthand, she really cared about people and whether they got clothed or fed and so forth. And one of the iconic ones, of course, is Stuff a Bus. And so she did many, many things.
And the blood drive.
Yeah, she did many things. But one of the things that she's probably always going to be remembered for, if nothing, that stands out maybe, is that Stuff a Bus, because they used to sleep on the bus.
That's right.
I mean, when they first started, just to make a point, like, we're here, this is important. We'll be here 24/7. How about that? And that's incredible. But for the fact that even after she was off the radio with you folks, that she would come back and participate and broadcast it from the bus every year was telling of her passion for helping others, and that particular event, especially at the holidays, always is one of those things that is a highlight for Rutland, is how we care about each other, take care of our neighbors, make sure that people are being fed, and that was paramount for Nancy. So it's going to be it's one of those big losses. Every time we lose somebody like that, I feel like Rutland took a step back.
We're talking to the mayor of the city, Tom Donahue. We could talk a little bit maybe about how things are progressing downtown. I did have occasion to speak with Carly Belden. Can't remember, was it a ribbon cutting of some sort? Oh, the skin place, the dermatology place.
Oh, Four Seasons Dermatology?
Yes.
Did the ribbon cutting.
I had an appointment with them later that week.
There you go.
And everything's good, by the way.
Perfect.
But, she was saying that they've had a little bit of a challenge with respect to, they had to move the power, I'm trying to remember, across the street.
Yeah.
And then they'll move it back and then underneath eventually. But for those of you that have been driving by and you don't see like 1,000 people working, it is still going on and there's still progress being made. It's just probably going to be a longer process than than maybe first contemplated.
Yeah, and it always is, and we get used to that around here.
Yeah.
But in this case, it was holding up the remediation process, and that completion of that remediation, which is a big undertaking, a $5 million job, is it's critical to the site, of course, and it was holding up. They'd gotten to the point where they had to stop until that power was relocated, the poles were moved, and now they can get back to that, and then they can start subsequent to that. But that's the first thing that has to be finished. And this was initially there was another easement they were trying to acquire. It without picking on any particular ownership in downtown Rutland business, it was a property in downtown that has an out-of-state ownership, and they just weren't being communicative in being able to discuss the easement that we needed. So they came up with a plan B, and that's what you see taking place right now.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously, people are looking forward to seeing the building rise out of the ashes, so to speak, and but that probably is still a summer or two away. But eventually, there will be a 7-floor building there, with a bar and a restaurant on the top floor, which will allow you to see 180 degrees. There'll be rooms for rent and also hotel rooms, which are either by night or longer.
Yeah, and Cambria Hotels is an upscale hotel, which is really important, that we'll have an upscale hotel. Right. And that's exciting because of all the activity that is going on. And I want to point out, all of Rutland should benefit from this, not just downtown. Yeah. But the fact that it's downtown kind of blends nicely with the Paramount, which is seeing upwards of 100,000 people a year now going through its doors, and the fact that we have Amtrak service in here on a daily basis from New York City and points beyond. So, it's when you pull all those ingredients together, and that's what we will do from a marketing and promotion standpoint. And it also shows confidence in the market. So with the investment breeds other investment. And so, you're aware that Ed Bove this week, our director of planning, submitted, and I call myself the broken record on this. I've been saying the word Tier 1A exemption for a year and a half now, saying that this is one of the paramount things in my tenure here as mayor and as a city alderman. I want to see Tier 1A exemption for the city of Rutland under Act 181. So Ed has been diligent in his efforts to pull all together all of the parts and pieces that requires, and it's a lot. It deals with zoning, it deals with master plans, not just city but also regional. And those were all finally accomplished with the Land Use Review Board approving the regional plan just last week. Was the final piece for us to be able to pursue an application to the state of Vermont's Land Use Review Board for a Tier 1A exemption for the city of Rutland. And that is now in. We have already heard back from the state. They're looking at the week of August 24th to come down and meet with us, with their board members about that pre-application. And so we are already moving forward. I was very pleased at how quickly they responded to that submitted application that just went in last week. I was very pleased about how quickly they responded to that and how quickly they're going to come to Rutland, because this could be as short as a 60-day process, which is what we're hoping for, so that we can be not only the first application in the state, which we are, and that was an achievement, but also I would love to see us be the first Tier 1A
approval
community in the state of Vermont with that approval. Now, again, I'll just say for the listeners one more time that what this means for Rutland is that we have local control over all development, which is housing, commercial, and industrial development of any size, because right now Act 250 kicks in the city even, over certain size developments. This gives us complete local control, an exemption from Act 250. That's a huge calling card, because that process can be very time-consuming, and time equals money. So it can be very expensive, and then oftentimes it can be unpredictable, and that's one of the things that developers look for is predictability, as well as timeliness, and again equaling
cost,
which can just be in the hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions of dollars to get through that permit process. But I also want to say, and I mentioned this at the Board of Aldermen's meeting on Monday night, and I'll just say it again briefly, that doesn't mean that it's Rutland goes wild on development. We want development here of all types. It will be controlled. It's just that it's locally controlled. That's the big difference. And what that means, because we have our own zoning, we have our own subdivision regulations, we have our own master plan, we have a planning commission along with the director of planning. We have a development review board, an architectural review board. We have the Rutland Redevelopment Authority itself, and so on. That it will be it will be a review process. It will go through and meet all the expectations that we would set for our zones and our development in the city and how it will look and where it will go. But it will be local process, local control. It will be predictable, it'll be timely, and it'll be less expensive. And so it's a huge calling card for Rutland. I really, really want to achieve the approval. That is one of the things that I said I would accomplish on my time, and one of the things that I've set out to do. And I, again, kudos to our Director of Planning, Ed Bove, who has run with this one and got that application together with so many different. Now, I want to mention that, we also have so many things as a city that we've invested in to make sure that we qualify for this. And there's things like having water and sewer. We have capacity. We've invested in that historically. There's a lot of check boxes that say they just don't grant it to just anybody. But Rutland City actually meets the test, and therefore it should be granted. And once they've finished their review process, it might be a little cumbersome to begin with, only because we're the first ones. Therefore, we might be the guinea pigs in the process for the Land Use Review Board in Montpelier. But I'm confident, I'm optimistic, and I'm excited.
All right, we're going to take our second break. We're talking with Rutland City Mayor Tom Donahue here on Catamount Community Connection. When we come back, we'll probably have somewhere around 15 or 16 minutes left. And knowing Tom, I know there's some other things that we want to get to. So let's take a break, and we'll be back in just a minute. And welcome back to Catamount Community Connection. I'm Brian Collamore, your host each week, and we talk with, different folks, professional, business, nonprofit, political folks, try to keep people apprised of what's going on in Rutland County, throughout the state as well. And again, I'll just mention our show brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society, better known as the Fair, and we will have the Vermont State Fair again this year. It'll be a week from this coming Tuesday, so August 18th through the 22nd, down at the fairgrounds. And hopefully they get great weather, and hopefully you go down at least once. Maybe you make a couple visits to the fair and enjoy all that it has to offer, both the rides, the midway, but also the agricultural side of the fair. Today, we are speaking with the Rutland City Mayor, Tom Donahue, and we've talked a lot about, different things, public safety being, front and center for the mayor and me. I would definitely agree with everything that we've talked about in terms of our local police department, the great job they're doing, and how important it is that Rutland be viewed both by the folks who live here, but also by the rest of the people in the state as a safe community, a welcoming one, but heavy emphasis on the safe part too. We have seen, unfortunately, a city, the Queen City, as we used to call it, Burlington, going through different times, and they've really, they're struggling up there. I will tell you, I know people that will just not go there, especially at night, because of their fear of what might happen if they're walking along Church Street. Anyway, not to cast aspersions there, but I think Rutland does a great job and is continuing to get even better in terms of staying safe. And we talked a little bit about the hotel downtown, but there are also so-called opportunity zones that I know the mayor wants to talk about. First, you got to tell us what those are, and the fact that there's a limited number of them statewide, but we are, quote, on the list, right?
Yeah, so they're actually recommended by the governor. It's a federal program. It runs through HUD, but it actually is referred to the Department of the Treasury, and it has to get the approval, the recommendation of your governor. So the Governor Scott has recommended us for the two that we had asked for. We had two, but they had to be renewed. So this is called Opportunity Zone 2.0. Actually, literally, that's what the feds are calling it. It'll be in place for a decade before they'll have to look at those maps again and decide. But it goes to places in the states across the country, and in this case in Vermont, that are designated economically distressed communities. And we actually qualify for that. And in a good way, I'm going to say, because we want this. We really want these. And we want them to be renewed. We didn't want them to expire. And so federal poverty level and things like that kick in. So you have to be very careful, because you could find yourself just outside of that criteria and lose your opportunity zones. But these are for investors, and the governor was gracious enough to make sure that Rutland got two renewed. The map on them shifted slightly, so they still encompass all of the greater downtown area, but now it's more of the southern part of the city, shifting from the northern part of the city. And once you've got that designation, which we now officially have, this will work nicely along with the Tier 1A exemption, along with the tax increment financing district, and other things that are unique to Vermont, unique to the country, and unique to Rutland City as calling cards for investors in economic development. This should really put us in the catbird seat. What this one does is kind of, it basically is tax deferment for investors. There's a number of tax capital gains tax deferment and some other investment advantages, let's put it that way, for investors. So it makes you a place where you can, as an investor, you can invest money. The difference in ours, as presented by Sean Atkins at the Rutland Redevelopment Authority, is a new twist on this, I guess I'll call it, or taking advantage of a new way to do it, which is he's calling it the Rutland Redevelopment Authority, the RRA, is calling it the Rutland Catalyst Fund. But what it is it takes your traditional opportunity zone where you would then invest in specific projects, and it makes it sort of a carte blanche across the opportunity zones themselves, the entire area that it covers, which is roughly maybe 3/4 of the city. And in doing so, instead of backing just a single asset or single project, it can be across a platform of sort of a diversified projects within that area. So in layman's terms, the way I was thinking of it personally is the difference between investing in a stock and investing in a mutual fund. You know, this might be our version of a mutual fund. Yeah. And that's my terms only. I haven't heard that from anybody else, but in my mind, I was thinking, how would I equate this to something else? And so this is unique in Vermont. It's the only one. Again, we'd be the first with this. Who knows? Other communities might take a look at this and say, hey, great idea. Let's do that too. But at least we're the first. And then if we get the Tier 1A exemption, again, we'll be the first. Love Rutland being the first on these things. But you have to have these kind of calling cards to say, here's why we want you to locate A in Vermont. Here's why we want you to locate A1, we'll say, in Rutland City, because these are huge. These are huge advantages when you're investing, when you're looking to locate, when you're wanting to get started sooner than later. And we can now almost promise that in Rutland. This will be a great advantage for you economically, as well as, shovel in the ground, shovel ready, let's go kind of a thing. You're not just talking the talk, you're literally walking the walk and getting that accomplished for investors in businesses, housing, developments, all those kind of things. It could be industry. Any of the above, we're open to all of it. Again, all locally controlled. So it's an exciting time for Rutland. I think this is probably the biggest set of opportunities that we've packaged together. Now what we have to do is, we'll wait for the Tier 1 exemption, and then once we've got the package complete, market it. We've got to start telling our story, shouting it out loud, not waiting for people to knock on our door, but let's knock on theirs And I think we're going to be a very attractive community to invest in, again, whether it's housing, commercial, or industrial. I think we're going to be a very attractive community and have advantages that others just don't. So I think we're gotten our ducks in a row, and once we put that out there, we're going to see us flourish. And it's Rutland turning the corner. Mm-hmm. And you're in Montpelier, Brian, as a senator, and there is a vibe about Rutland right now. Even the doctor at Four Seasons Dermatology that opened up recently, and we were at the ribbon cutting. Yep. He even mentioned it. Mm-hmm. He said he felt it. Yeah. He brought that up to me. I didn't even, tee it up. He did, and I was so happy to hear it because that's exactly how I feel.
I want to make sure that people are aware also. I mentioned this coming Tuesday is primary day for voting. It's also Cedar's Mixer for the month of August, and it will take place at the Rutland Airport. And I mention that because that's another potential economic tool for just roughly speaking the whole county. And I'm hoping that people will be able to get their voting done during the day and then come down. The Cedar Mixers start at 5 and generally run till about 7. I'm sure there'll be door prizes and all that kind of stuff. That's how I got involved with the airport committee, and I decided I'll sit on that committee and see what we can get done. But one of the things they gave away when I first went was a plane ride to Boston and back, and I won it. So that's how I sort of got into it.
That's great.
But Cape Air, not this summer, but I think next year, will be up for review again in terms of EAS, which is the local ability for a carrier to take you from a certain airport to another bigger hub. And so right now, at least, and I know there's federal potential for some of that to not be coming our way again. We're hoping that that's not true. But you could fly down to Boston 3 times a day and fly back from Logan 3 times a day. You could park at the airport free for 2 weeks, so you don't have to worry about driving down to Boston with the tolls and the gas and then finding a place to park in the airport. All of that, you jump on the plane in Rutland, you're in Logan in about 50 minutes. It's the same terminal if you're using JetBlue, so you don't have to go back out and take your shoes off and all that again. It's the most convenient thing I can imagine, and it's not very expensive. It's still about $80 to $90 to get down there. So anyway, hopefully people get to the Mixer and enjoy the airport. There's potential for some, I hope, state money for a feasibility study coming up to figure out how we can expand the Rutland Airport a little bit. They want to build, the group that I'm with, I think 3 or 4 additional hangars so folks who own airplanes can keep them there out of the elements, and possibly to expand the terminal so that instead of that sort of one gate that you have now down there, it would be able to, be a little bit bigger. There'll be a restaurant, by the way, opening up there very soon again, and that's gone through a couple of different ownership changes through the years. But for people that live in Clarendon, that's a local restaurant for them.
Yeah, it's very cool. So yeah, you get to see the air traffic coming in and out, everything right from the window.
So I just wanted to mention that. So Tuesday night, this coming Tuesday, at the Rutland Airport, 5:00, and that's the Cedar Mixer, and hopefully a lot of folks can show up.
And I just want to echo what you said. You said it perfectly, so I won't repeat it. But the airport is a real asset to the region. It's the only one in the state outside of Burlington, which is a local airport. It's the only state airport with daily passenger air service 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. And we have a fixed-based operator. So we have aviation fuel, which makes us a destination. That's a very, very important asset to the airport, having a fixed-based operator, an FBO. And so when you couple that with daily passenger rail service to New York City, with daily passenger bus service, it makes Rutland, again, unique in Vermont. And these are all the things that are our calling cards for investing and living, working, and playing here in Rutland, and that's what we want to be able to talk about going forward. This is the place you want to locate if you're locating to Vermont. And why not? When you're talking about all these natural disasters, right now we're seeing wildfires everywhere. Rutland seems pretty calm when you're just talking
Yeah.
about an occasional nor'easter.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got about 3 minutes left. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to touch on, Mr. Mayor, and
Yeah.
the floor is yours.
Thank you. I just want to say how much I'm enjoying the position as mayor in the city of Rutland. It's been really interesting. I came in with a skill set and experience, so I was able to plug in and get going right away with all the hard stuff. So what I'm finding is, how do I do it differently? And one of the things I do, I have an open door policy. I hear from people by phone, by email, or in person who will walk in. I had 2 people walk in yesterday with issues and concerns, and I love to sit down and hear what's on their mind. That is, so I'm very, very big picture on the one hand, and I'm attention to detail on the other hand. And the reason I say that is because, if you're coming to see me and something's bothering you, there's probably a lot of truth in what you have to say. I just have to listen and hear it and then see how I can help. So I'm kind of having fun on the job, actually listening to some of the challenges and problems that folks have. I've also had people, like a woman from the Bardwell, stop in this morning just to say that she thinks I'm doing a great job.
Oh, no kidding.
And,
Nice.
It's a nice combination, but I do love hearing from the people. And ironically, you think that might have been the toughest part of the job. It is a hard part of the job because there's a lot going on for people, and people have their challenges. But I'm willing to listen to them and see if I can help. And ironically, to me, I didn't see this coming, but I'm finding that to be one of the more intriguing, interesting parts of the job. I'm hearing, some core things on Rutland residents' minds that they just want to get help with.
Yep.
And they've turned to the mayor for that help.
It's funny you mention that. The same situation occurs, at least partially, in Montpelier, we're sometimes, I think, overly concerned about passing another bill and making a new law. I'd rather see us repeal about half of what's on the books myself, but that's just one man's opinion. But I'm never really worried about a new bill. I like it more when somebody will call me and say, hey, I've been trying to deal with this agency and they won't get back to me, and I'm frustrated, and I don't want to be on hold for 4 more hours.
Exactly.
And you can step in, and as soon as you say, hey, it's Senator Blank or Representative Blank, the door's open. And then people say, wow, you got it done for me. Thank you.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know how important that was to that person that you helped?
Exactly.
And that's the thing, to recognize the importance of what's on their mind.
Well, Tom, thank you very much for joining us today. Rutland City Mayor Tom Donahue. We will definitely check back with you in September and find out what's going on.
Well, we're lucky to have you, Brian Collamore, so thank you very much.
We'll see all of you next week here on Catamount Community Connection.